This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us. It is Wednesday, January 8th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, what's next in the confrontation between the U.S. and Iran after Iran launched a missile strike against two military bases in Iraq where American troops are stationed. Two powerful natural disasters in different parts of the world as Australia's wildfires are wiping out lives, homes, and businesses, and Puerto Rico fears still more earthquakes after a powerful 6.4 quake. We're going to take a look at how Israel took action to wipe out Syria's nuclear weapon program with one of history's great secret military operations, known as the Shadow Strike. And he spent years setting the innocent captives free. Our conversation with attorney Brian Stevenson and a look at his story in the new movie Just Mercy. All that and much more in this edition of CBN Newswatch. I want to begin this half hour with Iran's missile attack coming after days of speculation of how it will retaliate for the killing of General Qasem Soleimani. Iran fired more than a dozen ballistic missiles at two U.S. bases inside Iraq. As Chris Mitchell now reports from Jerusalem, the world is now waiting for Washington's response and wondering if this is the end of the U.S.-Iran showdown or just the start of an escalation of a military confrontation.
Iran called the missile attack Operation Martyr Soleimani and fired the surface-to-surface missiles at two U.S. military bases, one near Erbil in Kurdish Iraq and the other in Iraq's Anbar province at the Ain al-Assad air base. Iran's supreme leader called it a slap in the face to the U.S. And Iran's foreign minister, Javad Zarif, tweeted, "Iran took and concluded proportionate measures in self-defense." And he added, "We do not seek escalation of war, but will defend ourselves against any aggression." President Trump had recently visited the al-Assad base, and after the attacks tweeted, "All is well. Missiles launched from Iran at two military bases located in Iraq. Assessment of casualties and damages taking place now. So far, so good." Vice President Mike Pence briefed House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and after she tweeted, "We must ensure the safety of our service members, including ending needless provocations from the administration and demanding that Iran cease its violence. America and the world cannot afford war." On Capitol Hill, the House will vote on a war powers resolution. And at the White House, President Trump plans to speak about the attacks. On Tuesday, he said it wouldn't be good for the U.S. to leave Iraq.
Well, I think it's the worst thing that can happen to Iraq. If we leave, that would mean that Iran would have a much bigger foothold, and the people of Iraq do not want to see Iran running the country. That I can tell you. So we'll see how it all works out.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo defended the decision to kill Soleimani.
We could clearly see we're continuing efforts on behalf of this terrorist to build out a network of campaign activities that were going to lead potentially to the death of many more Americans. It's the right decision. We got it right.
Some Middle East observers believe the night attacks appear designed to allow Iran to show a military response, but avoid American casualties to further escalate the situation.
Continuing to follow this story, Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem. So, Chris, what is the sense there about Iran's missile attack last night? Could this be a face-saving operation?
Ephraim, I think that's exactly what a lot of people here in the Middle East feel, that it was a safe-facing operation. So they could say they attacked the United States with the Iranian Revolutionary Guards that was controlled by General Soleimani. Iran has an ambitious missile program. They could hit those bases far stronger than they wanted to. And so even the language from Iran's foreign minister, he said this concluded, it was proportionate, all seems designed to say we did it, we could strike the U.S., but not wanting to escalate the situation. One thing to add, though, Ephraim, is that some of these Iraqi Shiite militias are saying, well, that was Iran's response. That's not our response. So this could not be the end of this escalation between the U.S. and Iran's proxies.
Israel.
Well, Israel's response, Ephraim, is Earlier today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he said that Israel has no better friend, or the U.S. has no better friend than the U.S., and he described the situation in the Middle East as a battle between the extremists, represented by Iran and its proxies, and also pragmatic countries like Saudi Arabia. He didn't mention them by name, but it's pretty obvious that Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, these are the pragmatist countries, and he sees this battle between them and Iran, Israel, and the U.S. seem right in the middle of this.
Chris, there's a lot of talk about Iran's proxies in the region. Tell us more about them and how dangerous they are.
Well, they're extremely dangerous, Ephraim, and this is part of Soleimani's grand strategy. He had been developing the Shiite militias all over the Middle East in many ways to surround Israel. You have Hezbollah, the biggest and the most well-known in Lebanon, but it also operated in Syria along other Shiite militias and militiamen that had come from places of Afghanistan or Pakistan. You have al-Shabi in Iraq. That's a big one of these Shiite militias inside Iraq. You have the Houthis in Yemen, and it's estimated there's as many as 200,000 armed militiamen inside the Middle East, from Tehran all the way to the Mediterranean. They represent an insidious network of terror that really represents a threat not only to the U.S., but Israel as well, and to all these other pragmatic nations in the Middle East. And let me add this one thing, Ephraim. This is all designed for these three reasons. They want to have regional hegemony. They want to destroy Israel, and they want to drive the U.S. out of the region. So that's the goals of Iran.
Chris, the Trump administration says it doesn't want regime change, but are there not Iranian opposition groups who want exactly that?
It's something that a lot of people, I think, in the United States may not realize, that there are a lot of opposition groups inside Iran that would love to see the regime fall. Many of these have their different agendas. They represent different people groups within Iran, but they are there, and they represent this cry of freedom within the Iranian people. A lot of people have seen millions of people out on the streets during these funeral ceremonies for Soleimani, but underneath, there's a great dissatisfaction with the regime, and believe it or not, a lot of people may not know this as well, but there's actually revival going on inside Iran. Many Muslims are coming to faith, sometimes through dreams and visions, supernatural encounters with the Holy Spirit. And there's people say that the fastest growing church in the world right now is actually inside Iran. That's why people say we need to be praying for the people of Iran at this critical time.
All right, Chris Mitchell reporting from Jerusalem. Thank you so much for your insight. Thunderstorms and showers have brought some relief for firefighters battling deadly wildfires across Australia's drought-parched east coast. Authorities say the danger isn't over yet as the storms raise concerns more fires could be sparked by lightning strikes. The unprecedented fire crisis has killed more than 24 people, including a firefighter who was working to extinguish unattended campfires. More than 2,000 homes, along with multiple businesses, have been destroyed.
The heartbeat of some of these communities is before we even begin to count the cost to business, to those people who may not have lost their homes, but they don't have a place to turn up for work today. They're not sure how their next paycheck is going to arrive. The cost of this is unprecedented. So what we need is your support.
That's actor Chris Hemsworth, known for his Marvel superhero role as Thor, and he is among a growing number of celebrities donating big dollars to help the firefighting efforts. Hemsworth, an Australian who lives in the drought-affected New South Wales town of Byron Bay, said in an Instagram video he would donate $1 million and asked his followers to show their support as well. Thousands of people fled their homes on Puerto Rico's southwest coast after a powerful 6.4 earthquake struck before dawn Tuesday, cutting power to the entire U.S. territory. Smaller quakes also hit late into Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday's earthquake came at the end of a 10-day string of quakes. Seismologists said there was no way of knowing when the quakes would ease. So many Puerto Ricans stayed with friends or family or even slept outdoors, far from the coast, fearful of collapsing buildings or a tsunami. Coming up, a secret mission by Israel's Air Force that wiped out Syria's nuclear weapons program. We're going to take a look at that operation and the lessons it teaches for dealing with Iran. Stay with us.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
It is viewed as one of history's great covert military actions. The Israeli Air Force conducted a secret mission that wiped out Syria's nuclear weapons program. Mark Martin spoke with an Israeli defense expert and a retired U.S. Navy Vice Admiral about Shadow Strike and what it means for dealing with Iran's nuclear threat.
They have pictures of a nuclear reactor, the core of the reactor, the fuel rods of the reactor.
Israel defense expert and Jerusalem Post editor-in-chief Yaakov Katz describes intelligence, which ultimately led to Shadow Strike, the covert op to destroy Syria's nuclear weapons program. Retired Navy Vice Admiral Herman Shalansky interviewed Katz about recently declassified files of the mission that led to a best-selling book by Katz.
Israel destroyed this reactor in 2007. 7 years later, in the summer of 2014, you know what happened in that region of Syria where that reactor once stood? ISIS took it over. So had Israel not discovered this reactor, had Israel not taken action, let's imagine for a moment what that would have meant. You would have had this al-Baghdadi guy, right, with not just thousands of fighters and vicious, brutal fighters, but with radioactive material, dirty bombs, and potentially a nuclear weapon in his suitcase.
In light of the current state of affairs of the Middle East, what does the actual Shadow Strike mean when it comes to Iran? What are the implications of that secret Israeli Air Force mission in Syria when it comes to Iran's nuclear program?
So we're looking at a much more complicated operation. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, Israel could go there. Israel has the capability to fly its jets to Iran and to take out some of the key facilities. They've scattered them throughout the country, some of them buried deep underground inside mountains or reinforced steel and concrete bunkers. But let's say they could cause enough damage. They could set them back.
Katz believes military action is not enough.
You need to hit them with tough sanctions. You need to get the world aligned to ensure that after that mission, the Iranians aren't going to rebuild what you have just destroyed.
Vice Admiral Shalansky says Israel has been loud and clear about its red line with Iran's nuclear enrichment program.
That if Iran had the development of a nuclear weapon, that they would take action. I mean, they did it in Iraq, they did it in Syria. I think something similar would play out. They would certainly talk to the United States very carefully and other allies that they have.
Shalansky points out Israel has more international friends now than in 2007, which could affect the Jewish state's strategy with Iran.
Politically, it could be a little bit more advantageous for them to use the diplomatic path. It's possible. Certainly, at one point, the the allies, our allies, United States allies, worked very much together to put constraints on Iran to ensure that they didn't have the means to get the bomb. A lot of that's deteriorating now.
Shalansky says it boils down to two paths for Israel, diplomatic or wartime.
But I think Israel's shown pretty clearly that they're not afraid to take the wartime path if needed.
Mark Martin, CBN News, Virginia Beach.
Still ahead, we are shifting gears and hearing from an attorney who spent more than 30 years defending those who couldn't afford to pay for their own defense, helping to free more than 140 people. Now his story is going to the big screen. We're going to talk to Bryan Stevenson and the stars of the new film, Just Mercy, when we come back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline, Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
It's been said every generation has a hero. Meet ours. Attorney Bryan Stevenson has spent more than 30 years defending people who can't afford to prove their innocence in court. And in that time, he's helped to free more than 140 people. His hero story is now being shared on the big screen in the film Just Mercy. Here's a look at the movie and my conversation with Bryan Stevenson himself and his life's work and the people who played the role in that faith story. Take a drive through downtown Montgomery. It's Alabama's state capital, the county seat of Montgomery County, the heart of the African American civil rights movement, and home to the Equal Justice Initiative, the nonprofit organization attorney Bryan Stevenson started many years ago to give legal representation to poor prisoners wrongly convicted of crime. Stevenson's humble hero story.
The first time I visited death row, I wasn't expecting to meet somebody the same age as me. From a neighborhood just like ours. Could have been me, Mama.
But what you're doing is gonna make a lot of people upset.
Is now a major motion picture starring Michael B. Jordan as Stevenson and Jamie Foxx as one of his real-life clients on death row.
Your life is still meaningful, and I'm gonna do everything possible to keep them from taking it. You don't know what you're into down here in Alabama when you're guilty from the moment you're born.
God. Mr. McMillan. We done here.
Michael, when you first hear of Bryan Stevenson's story or read the book, what were your initial thoughts? Did you know immediately this was something you wanted to do?
Yeah, when I first heard about Bryan, I was actually embarrassed that I didn't know that much about him in the first place. But as soon as I got educated on him, you know, listening to his TED Talk and reading his memoir, meeting him, getting to know him as a person, and the work that he's doing, I immediately knew it was something that I needed to be involved with, trying to figure out, you know, how to get it done, what people would be involved, you know, how to develop it. So it was a no-brainer for me.
Did you handpick Jamie?
I mean, I felt like he was the only person I saw for it, you know? He's the only person that I felt would be able to give the character what it needed.
Having someone like Michael B. Jordan who's up for the task of doing something like Just Mercy, introducing us to Brian Stevenson, I think is the golden part of it.
Why are you doing this? Why am I a lawyer?
No. Why is you a lawyer down here in Alabama taking these cases that ain't nobody gonna pay you for?
When I was a teenager, my grandfather was murdered over a black and white TV. We kept waiting for someone to show up to help. And that's when I realized that outside my community, nobody cared.
The book, as well as the film, called Just Mercy. I can't think of mercy or grace without thinking of God. How would you describe your work in terms of how it relates to being a work of God?
Yeah, I think it's very shaped by that. I mean, I am a person of faith. I have always had to believe things I haven't seen and have chosen to live by grace. And so for me, it's consistent with the work I've been trying to do. You know, I was drawn to helping people who were accused and incarcerated and condemned because I believe that we are all more than the worst thing we've ever done.
Walter Johnny D. McMillan is among Stevenson's first cases, an Alabama man wrongly convicted of murder and sentenced to death.
You the lawyer?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for driving all the way out here. Most lawyers barely make time to call.
His is also the story shared in the film.
We all need grace.
How did Walter McMillan's story and that case change you? That was very early in your career.
Yeah. Well, one of the things it did for me is it made me appreciate how when we falsely accuse someone and convict them and condemn them, we don't just do it to them, we do it to whole families, whole communities. It was a community injury.
You can buddy up with these white folks and make them laugh and try to make them like you, whatever that is, and you say yes sir, no ma'am, but when it's your turn, they ain't got to have no fingerprints, no evidence. And the only witness they got made the whole thing up. And none of that matter when all y'all think is I look like a man who could kill somebody.
But that's not what I think.
You play Walter McMillan. How easy or difficult was it for you to play the role of a man, black man, wrongly convicted of a crime and literally possibly being sentenced to die?
I don't think any of that is easy. I don't think the mindset of it, I don't think it's easy. I don't think it was easy for us to go on that set and be in those jail cells. You know, as black men, you know, that's the place you never want to be. And I don't even visit people in jail. You know, I have a thing about seeing the perception of seeing my family members or people that I know in jail. So that was a tough day.
Last lawyer said there ain't nothing left to do.
There's always something that we can do. Whatever you did, your life is still meaningful. And I'm gonna do everything possible to keep them from taking it.
You've been at this now for more than 30 years. What sacrifice do you think, or what would you look back on your life and say is the greatest sacrifice you've had to make to do this?
You know, it's interesting. I don't really think of anything I've done as being a sacrifice. It's been hard, it's been challenging. You know, there are things, you know, that people looking from the outside might say I don't have, but I feel really privileged to do what I do. I feel like it's been a real gift.
With that gift, Stevenson works to share the stories of those forgotten on film and also here at the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, a museum he opened to remember those lynched in America after slavery. Ephraim Graham, CBN News, Montgomery, Alabama. Just Mercy is playing in theaters nationwide this weekend. Now tonight on Studio 5, we're going to preview new music and a new docu-series from pop star Justin Bieber. And recording artist Jonathan Butler shares the life story behind his music. You can get those stories and much more on Studio 5. It begins tonight at 9:30. You can find it on the CBN News Channel. Now, you can see all of that on Studio 5 again at 9:30 Eastern. Stay with us. We'll be right back with an encouraging word for your day.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is strong. Know this, in every trial and every test, God is making you stronger. He's brought you to it, and He will bring you through it. With that word, live strong and make this a wonderful Wednesday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our CBN News programs at any time on the CBN News Channel. And we would love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. Feel free to email us. That address is newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. We'll be right back here same time tomorrow. Hope you will join us for that. Goodbye, everybody. God bless, and thank you so much for watching.